Verification of hearing aids for client success, aided response measurements, and fine-tuning. The final step in completing basic verification of the client's hearing aid is to complete the aided response measurement with the client's hearing aids in place to validate audibility for the client's hearing loss. In OtoSuite, go to the Aided Response tab within the Aurical PMM Test module. Prior to running aided response measurements, it's important to check fitting details to make sure all selections are correct. To open fitting details, select the blue hearing aid icon on the toolbar or press F10, the shortcut key on the keyboard. Adjust the following fitting details as needed for your client's fitting. Choose your preferred target rule. Then select fitting mode, real ear or coupler. Are you using measured or predicted REUGs? We've already measured the REUG, so we're choosing measured REUG. Choose your hearing instrument type, venting, and unilateral or bilateral amplification. In the next column, select the appropriate applied RECD. In this demonstration, we're using predicted since we did not measure RECDs. Choose the transducer used for the audiogram. Change Use Bone Conduction to Yes if there is a significant air-bone gap, and also be sure to check the appropriate experience level for your client. If Open Rem Calibration is preferred over standard calibration, be sure to check the box Use Open Rem Calibration. Select Apply to save your changes. Open Rem Calibration is recommended for all open ear fittings, but can be used for all hearing aid fittings if preferred. Open Rem Calibration disables the automatic calibration, heard as a chirp, preceding each measurement. Therefore, you must manually initiate a calibration before the first aided measurement in a session and anytime the client and/or objects in the sound field move. First, position the hearing aid on the client's ears and ensure the hearing aids are switched off or muted. The client must be seated 1 meter from the Aurical PMM speaker and must be looking directly at the speaker. Select Open Rem Calibration in the control panel. Run Open Rem Calibration by selecting Start. Successful calibration will be indicated in the dialog box. If calibration is not successful, double-check the client's position, ensure the probe tubes are properly placed, and restart the Open Rem Calibration. After successful calibration, close the Open Rem Calibration dialog box. Remember to turn on or unmute the hearing aids before proceeding with aided response measurements. When preparing to run aided response measurements, be sure to use the arrows at the side of each of the measurement buttons to select your desired options such as signal type. Signal type includes ISTS, the International Speech Test Signal, or Rainbow Passage. You may also select from the other options as desired. Next, you must select your preferred signal intensity level depending on what you are measuring, such as 50 or 55 dB, as we have chosen here for the soft speech stimulus. Next, you should choose your duration. In this example, we've chosen a duration of 14 seconds. The duration may be adjusted as you prefer. You can also specify a title of each measurement button in the control panel for reference. As you can see in this example, we've named the first 4 measurement buttons Soft Speech, Loud Speech, Average Speech, and Output for MPO measurements. To perform the test measurements, you may select the individual measurement one at a time by clicking on the desired test in the control panel. Or, if you check the box to the right of the arrow for each test, you can run those tests as a sequence. In this example, we will run soft, loud, and average speech as a sequence using the ISTS signal. By default, the measurements will run for the right and left ear simultaneously. The binaural symmetry check of the Aurical PMM system may cause the measurements to run sequentially and not simultaneously. If this occurs, ensure that the client is looking directly at the speaker, that they are not too close to a wall on one side, and that you are not standing on one side of the client. We will now complete the sequence of measurements.
Alors, vi tar dat stirrussleders. En så vil det gå inn i pauze, bevor jeg skulle fi, hvis det er aflogaten, der er så godt jo skrevet til de var lette. Chacun nous film, regolte, canadanière, filming de boss, pour journée alle. Alors, vi tar dat stirrussleders. En så vil det gå inn i pauze, bevor jeg skulle fi, hvis det er aflogaten, der er så godt jo skrevet til de var lette. Chacun nous film, regolte, canadanière, filming de boss, pour journée alle. Alors, vi tar dat stirrussleders. En så vil det gå inn i pauze, bevor jeg skulle fi, hvis det er aflogaten, der er så godt jo skrevet til de var lette. Chacun nous film, regolte, canadanière, filming de boss, pour journée alle.
Once you've completed the aided response measurements, you can view all curves or one curve at a time, depending on your preference. We will uncheck curves 1 and 2 to focus on curve number 3, which is the average speech curve. Viewing options within the toolbar include AR, aided response, AG, aided gain, IG, insertion gain, and PAA, predicted aided audiogram. AR, aided response, is the frequency response in dB/SPL of a hearing aid that's in the ear and turned on to a particular input signal, whereas AG, aided gain, is the frequency response in dB/SPL of a hearing aid that's in the ear and turned on with the input signal value subtracted out. IG, insertion gain, is the amount of gain provided by the hearing aid alone, and is calculated by subtracting the real ear unaided gain from the real ear aided gain, or by subtracting the real ear unaided response from the real ear aided response across frequencies. Real ear insertion gain is good for answering this question: does the hearing aid provide the appropriate frequency-specific gain for speech? Whereas the real ear aided response is better for answering this question: does the hearing aid place amplified speech at the appropriate output? You can also determine how much detail you want to see on the display graph by selecting the preferences in the overlay section. These options include percentile, reference audiogram, compression ratio, and counseling tools such as pictures and speech letters. The display graph will show the target curve as a dashed line, and the measured curve, or the LTAS, the long-term average speech spectrum, as a solid line. If you have chosen the percentile overlay, you will see a shaded area around the LTAS curve, which represents the peaks and valleys of the LTAS response curve. The color of the curve will correspond to the color of the measurement button. You can view and hide curves by checking or unchecking them in the legend key below the display graph to simplify the view if needed. The fitting goal is to increase or decrease the hearing aid output to make the target and the LTAS curves match as close as possible within 5 dB plus or minus, especially within the frequency range of 750 to 4000 Hz. To assist in the fine-tuning of the hearing aids, there are two Fit Assist tools in OtoSuite: On Target and On Top Mode. On Target can be selected from the shortcut icon in the toolbar that resembles a bullseye target. On Target shows the live difference in decibels between the measured curve and the corresponding target. The On Target view displays only the difference curve, perfect for fine-tuning. No further calculations are needed to know how much you need to adjust the hearing aid to match target. You simply aim for a flat curve. Even if you do not aim to reach the target fully, for instance, with a first-time hearing instrument user, this functionality will help you make more precise fittings according to your clinical judgment. Hover your cursor on specific points along the measured curve to view the actual decibel difference, which will appear in the top left-hand corner of the on-target graph. The second Fit Assist tool is On Top Mode, which can be selected from the shortcut icon on the toolbar, which is the last one on the right. On Top Mode reduces the size of the OtoSuite window and allows for simultaneous view and control of both the hearing aid manufacturer's software and OtoSuite. Required hearing aid gain adjustments can be made and then aided measurements can be updated to determine if fitting goals have been achieved without having to toggle between the software programs. The clinician can view either the display graph or the on-target curve in this view, but not both at the same time. Once hearing aid adjustments are complete, save changes in the hearing aid software and then switch back to normal view via the normal mode shortcut and save your results in OtoSuite.